Welcome everyone to this tutorial. I'm going to continue on project 2. We're going to start on page 72. Although we did that, I just want to go over some of the headings that you'll see in the properties panel. We talked about format. So basically, when you're going into the format over here, you have paragraph and headings. We're not going to worry about pre-formatting right now, but basically, this is everything that you're ever going to need in there. The ID is a tag that is specific to a certain element. You can only have one ID the same in any file. Just like if you're on a street, you can only have one house number that has that particular number. The class is something that we'll talk about when we get into CSS. And again, the link is a hyperlink. So you're either going to link to a page, or you're going to link to an email file, or you might link to a picture. The BNI options are bold and italic. However, we're going to use strong and M for the tags on there. Unordered list and ordered list we talked about. The unordered list is just like a bullet, and the ordered list is a numbered list. The remove block quote and block quote are basically like indent and unindent. You've seen them in Microsoft Word. You've seen them in PowerPoint. When you click on the indent, it brings you in. However, on a bulleted list in Microsoft Word, it will indent it but change the bullet. Same thing with a numbered list. It will indent it, and if you have a 1, it'll probably change it to an A, depending upon how you have your number set up. The title, again, we talked about the title and the target in there. Title is specific for a particular tag, and of course, the target, we're going to either use self or we're going to use blank if we're going off the site. So the book wants you to start formatting headings. And basically, it's important to understand every page should have one H1 tag. A lot of developers want to try to use more than one H1 tag, but it does confuse the browsers, and you want your website to be found. You do not want to confuse the browsers because they control the search engine optimization. So just think of it as any kind of paper that you're writing where you have a specific title and then you have subtitles. So think of the H2 and the H3 as subtitles. And you can see on page 73, it pretty much gives you a good definition of exactly what you want to do. So you're going to open up the typography HTML file. I already have it open. And what we want to do is we want to put a heading 1 to the very title of the page. Remember, all you have to do is click in any character in the actual text itself, go down to Format, and choose H1. Now notice that it got bolder, it got bigger. In CSS, you have the ability to format that, make it centered. You may want to make it blue background with white text. You can do any of that stuff in CSS depending upon how you want it. So we'll talk about that more again. That's on page 73. We're going to move to number 3 on page 74. And what we want to do is we want to input the insertion point in quotes and related characters, which is rather easy. So find quotes and related characters. And we're going to put a heading 2 tag. And notice that it's bolder and bigger, but not as big as the heading 1. Then number 4, it says we go to quotation marks, apostrophes, and inch and foot marks, and we're going to use a heading 3. So here is quotation marks, heading 3, apostrophes, heading 3, and inch and foot marks, heading 3. Then it tells us that we want to do code number 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 29, 31, 33, and 35, and the word in there and what level to put it on. So the numbers of code are actually in code view. So if we go to split, you'll see the actual codes over here. So if we go to 20 and find hyphens and dashes, which is actually 22, and that's an important thing to understand. The book and your page may not match exactly. So we're going to go in and do it here. And we want a level 2. For 22 hyphen, we want level 3. EN dash and EM dash, we want 3. And you can do this either in code view or design view. You get exactly the same result. Special characters is 2 and multiplication sign is 3. Copyright and registered trademark are both 3. And resources are 2. That takes care of that. I'm going to save my file right now. I'm going to go into design view so you can see how this looks. On the next page is a block quote. Remember, we said a block quote makes things indented. So let's go back into split view. Now again, I normally do not work in split view. I work either in code view or design view. However, this is a good way to show you how one affects the other. So again, it talks about 3 things: a block quote, a queue, and a cite. A block quote just formats a block of code so the text is indented on the left and the right. The queue defines a short quotation commonly appearing in line. And the cite is allow you to cite the name of an author, a work, a book, printing, movie, so on and so forth in there. And again, it says the cite attribute defines the source of the quote. So we're going to be doing all that. So what we want to do is we're going to find from the first paragraph immediately below the heading text 1, you may think all the way to advertising. So let's go back up top here. And I'm going to go strictly in code view for right now. I will select from here. And all the way to advertising. Then it tells us to click the block quote button in the properties, which is this. Now, if you don't remember which, put your mouse over, and one's going to say remove, and one's going to, doesn't say add, just put block quote. So notice that it adds block quote here, block quote here. If we go into design view, you'll see that it's actually indented. We're going to select Ugly on advertising. I just killed his name. Hopefully he doesn't mind. And I'm going to do it in code view. So if you go into code view, often it's hard to find where it is. So remember, select something in design view. It's so much easier. We're going to go over here. And I selected it nice and carefully. And we're going to control right click and make sure we're doing a design and use rep. Now you may not need to do control right click. Do not right click in code view. Notice that there is no wrap tag. So make sure you're doing it here. There's the wrap tag. It'll ask you what tag you want to do. So we go to the next page and we just type in some letters. It will start matching us as soon as it finds. Notice it's got canvas because canvas begins with a C. Then it has circle because circle begins with a CI. And then we hit, we found cite. So it tells us to hit the enter key. and that just fills in the rest of it. I just did number 6. Number 7 tells you to hit the enter key again, and that just adds it to it. So notice that in design view, it's nice and italicized. Here we have a site and an end site. Did that for us automatically. That was number 7. And number 8, in design view, we're going to select the words, God is in the details. And notice it's got quotes. So one of the things about browsers is they handle quotes the way they feel like handling them. So if you go into God is in the details, you'll notice you have an ampersand and a quote, and that browser will interpret that any way it wants. Usually it will do it right, but sometimes it gives you a single quote, sometimes it gives you a double quote, sometimes it gives you an opening, sometimes it gives you a closing where the braces are somewhat different. So we're going to use a little different tag on there to do that. So let's select these over here. And it's going to tell us to do the same thing. So we're going to right click. We're going to choose wrap tag. Basically, that just means wrap a tag around a selected test. And all we're going to do is type in Q. Then it's going to tell us to look on live view. So let's hit the enter key twice. And if you notice in live view, you now have 2 sets of quotation marks. So we're going to delete one of them. Obviously, we don't want to. So we're going to go back into code view. And again, select something so it's so much easier. I recommend when you drag often, it makes things more challenging. So what I normally do is I'll just click, I'll hold the shift key down and select it that way, then delete it. And I'm going to do the same thing using my shift key and then using the arrow keys and delete it. Now we see we only have one set of quotation marks, and that's exactly what we want. So we're going to turn off live view now. And let's look at it in a browser to see what we have. And now you're going to be surprised at what's going to happen. So we told you that you can hit F12 and preview in Internet Explorer. And of course, if you try to do that without saving it, it's going to do that. Now we have this. Okay, however, this is what's called live preview. You may get something that looks like a little phone and says, sorry, we can't do it. Open it up in Dreamweaver, which makes no sense because we're in Dreamweaver. So if you get that message, all you have to do is right-click on the file itself, and then you can open in browser and open in the browser itself. If you don't get it, then good. But if you do get it, that's what you do. So now we're going to do an abbreviation. An abbreviation won't show up unless you actually have your mouse over it and you'll see like a little yellow tube tip. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the word ANSI, and there's actually 2 versions of it. So let's find ANSI. Now, if you don't know where it is, you can do a search for it. So it says in a paragraph following the copyright heading symbol, which is fine. Here it is. So we're going to select it here so we can find it. And we're going to click before it. Okay, I just did number 1. Now we just did number 2. And we're going to put the important point, and we're going to put abbreviation. Now I'm clicking right before the A. So I'm going to insert a tag. However, we're not wrapping the tag. We're going to do a special insert. So you can see it a different way. So what I'm doing is holding the shift key down, and I'm typing AB, or I can just select it here. Once I do that, it adds the abbreviation right here. Now we're going to take this and we're going to drag it. By the way, there's more than one way to do that. And we're going to take it over there. So what the book actually wants you to do, though, is type in something before we do that. So I'm going to undo that so you can see, and we're going to do it exactly the way the book wants it that time. I'm constantly telling you how many different ways that you can do the same thing. You do it the way you feel the most comfortable. So let's go back to ANSI, assuming we can find it. And there it is. So let's get rid of this abbreviation here. And let's get rid of this. Okay, we need to just get rid of this abbreviation here. And we're back. Okay, so I'm going to go over here again. And I'm going to shift. And I'm going to go here. And then I'm hitting the space. I'm on number 5. Then I'm hitting the return key to accept it. Didn't hit the T. So it's and it did not work. So let's do this again. Okay, now we got it. So now again, I make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. That's why you undo things and go back in there. And I like to do this so that you see how to fix something that has happened. So we're going to go back in here. We're going to type American National Standards Institutes. We've done that. And it, by the way, it did add quotation marks for you. Okay, we're going to move the insertion point to the right of that, and we're going to type the tag over here, the closing bracket here. And it automatically put the closing bracket for us. However, we do not want it there. And the reason why it puts it there is a setting that does that for you automatically. So we're going to move this here. You can drag it. Sometimes I just like to cut it and paste it. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other standard. I'll let you do that on your own. So let's see what that does. Let's go and preview. We'll open a browser, Internet Explorer. And we'll find it. Okay, notice that when I put my mouse over, it gave the title of what we did in here. I'm going to close this now. Okay, and I'm going to end this video on here We'll pick up with formatting strong and M elements on page 81 in our next video. Have a wonderful night.